Hello, everybody. It's Ezio 117 here, and 2018 was quite a fantastic year for music. There's been a lot of great artists putting out great albums, and while there's a few albums that definitely sucked, today we're going to be focusing on the top 10 best albums of 2018, in my humble opinion. By the way, compared to other other like music YouTubers like ARTV or Anthony Fantano, I haven't heard as many albums. So if you're wondering why I didn't include that album or that album, then that's just because I haven't heard it. So before we start this list, let me just give off some honorable mentions.
Time to put the silicone obsession down. Innocent say I keep a check. She was a bad nevertheless.
So here we go. Let's start at number 10.
Just tell me what you're thinking.
Jukebox to Ghost was a band I didn't really know, so when I listened to this album, I wasn't really expecting much. What I got was a rather well-made pop album. For a year, that was just completely lackluster and shit when it came to pop. This album felt like a breath of fresh air. There's a bunch of good songs on this. Songs like Time and I and Diane are especially good. The only reason why it's not higher up is just because some of the songs near the end kind of falter and the production is a bit overproduced. What you get here is a really solid, well-made pop album, and it definitely deserves its 10th spot.
Rap music, dope money just came along.
For those who don't know, Kids See Ghosts is a project driven by Kid Cudi and Kanye West, two artists I don't particularly like, but this album here is surprisingly good. Feel the Love, Fire, Reborn, and Cutie Montage are all really, really good, well-made hip-hop songs, and the production is really, really clear and crispy. The other three songs are kind of lackluster though. Fourth Dimension, Free, and the title track could have been better, and they kind of feel lackluster in the songwriting department. But everything else is killer, and I would love to see more albums like this in Kanye West and Kid Cudi's future albums. This is the first album I've heard from the controversial metal act Death Heaven. And for being my first exposure to them, I really liked it. There's some really good, poignant, emotional metal-infused songs on this. But the thing that surprised me with this was that I was expecting this to be a heavy black metal album, but instead I got something that was more in the line of shoegazing and post-rock, which I think is good because I like post-rock, and what I've heard from shoegazing is pretty good as well. There's some really, really good songs on this. The first three tracks, You Without End, Honeycomb, and Canary Yellow, are all fantastic, and Worthless Animal is a really good closer. The other three tracks are meh, but still, even the other three tracks are not bad. It's just that compared to the other four tracks I just mentioned, they feel a bit thin and dull, but nonetheless, this is definitely a fantastic album that I would definitely recommend you guys checking out. After the rather messy and unfocused self-titled effort, MGMT decided to release a synth-pop album titled Little Dark Age. The last two albums this band has made, which are Congratulations, my favorite by them, and in their self-titled efforts, were more in the psychedelic rock prog vein, and people were getting tired of that, and even the band was getting tired of that, so they decided to change up a bit, and they went full-on 80s synth-pop with this, while they still had elements of the psychedelic in there. This is a full-on synth-pop effort, and what a great album it is. The first three tracks, She Works Out Too Much, Little Dark Age, and When You Die. Some of the best free songs you could open an album with. And everything else on here is pretty good too. T-Slamp, When You're Small, Hand It Over. These are all solid tracks. Everything else is not as good, but nonetheless, what you get here is a well-produced, well-written, catchy pop album that definitely deserves to be on this list.
Say you wish your chest. Say you wish your chest.
While it doesn't hold a candle to Saturation Free or even Saturation 2, Iridescence by Brockhampton is definitely a fantastic album and definitely a logical evolution in the band's discography. One of the members of the band, Amir Van, left because of sexual allegations and controversy. So now the band themselves had to create an album without him. Amir was sort of like the driving force of their first three albums. He had like the best flow, the best verses, so creating an entire album without him seemed like it was going to be destined for failure. But because of a fantastic production, great hooks, consistent lyrical themes, and also because it's Brockhampton and these guys have usually great chemistry, we get an album that is just so hard-hitting, so raw, but at the same time so melodic and interesting. The highlights on this album are Tape, Wait, San Marcos, and Tanya. Everything else is pretty good as well, which showcases just how great this album is. This is an album I definitely recommend you guys checking out. Even people who aren't hip-hop fans would find something to like in this. Impala by the Spanish progressive rock outfit El Tubo Elastico is a fantastic album. The production is crystal clear. The songwriting is consistent. There's so many memorable instrumental sections, and it has plenty of melodies as well. You can tell these guys really love the King Crimson, so most of the album is in the style of King Crimson. The highlights on this album go to Ingravido, Anti-Hero, El Acelerador de Picotas, and my personal favorite, La Avispoteca. This is an album I definitely recommend you guys checking out. It's a really good progressive rock album for a year where, especially because this year wasn't the best when it came to progressive rock, but this album is definitely one of the few exceptions. Definitely an album I recommend you guys checking out. Sleep was a band I was familiar with before I heard this album. There was even a song from this album I remember hearing before, which was Merchonat's theme, which I thought, when I first heard it, I didn't think that song was that great. But when I heard it in the context of the album, man, what a song. I can say the same for the album. The album is just crushing, hard-hitting as oh hell metal. Just the highlights on here, if I had to pick, are Merchonat's theme, Sonic Titan, and the closer, The Botanist. But everything else on here is really good too. Even the opener, which is probably the closest thing to a filler you'll get on this album, is kind of nice as like a way of getting you ready for the album. This album is really meaty. The production is insanely tight. Even the vocals, which are odd at first, are surprisingly charming, and there's some really good bass solos on this as well. The Sciences by Sleep is an album I recommend everybody check out at some point. I haven't heard the rest of Sleep's discography, but I will probably get around to listening to the rest of the discography, especially after listening to this goddamn masterpiece.
Don't let the words out the way, cut you down to the bone.
I've already gone great lengths about this album. If you want to see my review on it, just go on my YouTube channel and you'll find it. But I'm just gonna keep it short. This is a fantastic album with some of the best vocal performances and playing I may have heard in quite a long while. I recommend everybody checking it out, and if you haven't heard it, then you're missing out on something truly incredible.
All it gets mixed up, mutated, transposition, regenerated life.
No words can describe this masterpiece. Probably one of my all-time favorite albums of the last millennia. So It's some of the best produced, some of the most well written, and just some of the most beautiful albums I've ever witnessed. It is it's all split up into four movements and of sorts, and all these movements are varied. Sometimes they cover prog, sometimes they cover psychedelia, they cover Chinese music, they cover jazz and funk and 80s pop and post-punk. They cover so many genres on this album, and almost all the time did they hit bullseye. This is an album I could say is has close to no filler, and it's like an hour and 14 minutes long. That just showcases how great the album is. However, there is one album that is better than this. So what's the number one spot? Well, let's find out. This album, this goddamn album, it is progressive. It is emotional. It is dense. It is melodic. It is produced well. It's probably the best. It's probably the best production I've seen on a modern album yet. This album is a masterpiece. From the first song of All Traps on Earth to the closer, it just hits all the right notes when it comes to a prog album. If you love King Crimson and Jethro Tull and even Magma, you're gonna love this album. I can't just say anything else other than this album just hits me hard. Even the 2-minute track on this album titled First Step, which should be pointless filler, managed to be an emotional breather from all the other 4 grandiose epics. I'll probably do a review on this album at some point, but I'm just going to keep it short. This is an album that everybody must get around to listening to. Even if you're not a fan of prog, there is something you're bound to like on this album. Just a masterpiece. So yeah, that was my top 10 albums of the year. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and Happy New Year! Hope I see you guys next year, and I'll definitely be making more videos as well. So yeah, Happy New Year, guys! Peace.